Welcome to the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. I am your host, Scott Aaron, and each and every week I'm going to come to you with short, simple, and powerful tactics of how you can grow your network marketing business, brand, bank account, and impact on those around you. And just remember, network marketing is not easy, but it can be made easy with simple steps to create the success that you truly deserve. Welcome to episode 120 of the Network Marketing Made Simple podcast. And if you're a new listener, then welcome. And if you are a returning listener, then welcome back. And as always, if you are a network marketer or top level business coach and you are still growing your business through the means of Facebook and Instagram, and you are not yet leveraging the power and potential that LinkedIn can have on you, your business, and your brand, then head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for a free 15-minute discovery call with me where you can learn more about me, where I can learn more about you, and how we can potentially work together. So this is officially my last episode of 2019, and what a year it's been. And I am so excited to end this year's podcast going into next season with the person that I have for you guys today. She's become a dear friend of mine. We have done some work together. She is definitely paving the way when it comes to money and mindset coaching. My guest today, Elizabeth.Payne, is a money and mindset coach and a leader in subconscious transformation. She helps men and women free themselves from these money blocks all around the world and shift their thoughts and emotions to break through limiting patterns and beliefs to step into a life that happens for you, that's full of happiness, abundance, and ease. She is unapologetic about what it takes to unleash your power and step into your life and your dreams. And you can connect with her at www.nextlevelshift.xyz. And that's nextlvlshift.xyz. And obviously I'm going to put all of this information for you guys in the show notes so you can connect with her to learn how she can help you. So Elizabeth.Payne, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you, Scott. I'm so happy to be here.
So before we jump into the guts of everything, you see a lot of money mindset coaches out there and, people that aren't really practicing what they preach. And I know firsthand that this is something that you practice, but also that you preach. So what was it that drew you into not only money mindset coaching, but the power of the subconscious and how that really can transform someone's life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a lot of people could probably resonate with the term a rock bottom moment. I had mine at age 30, and from the outside, everything looked really fantastic. I had a great husband, 3 dogs, a new house, a great job. It looked like I had everything together, but in reality, I was over $200,000 in debt. My relationships really had a lot of strife and turmoil. My health was really not great, and stress and struggle kind of ruled my life. For a lot of people, life is just good enough, so they just keep going. But for me, the rock bottom was the wake-up call where I knew something had to change. I always just knew there was more. There was something more. Like, life was surely not just that shitty. So I started on a journey to reprogram my mind, to really dig into what stories am I telling myself that keep creating this for me. How can I change this? I had tried to change things with the classic positive thinking that a lot of people do and other things, but things just weren't really, really hardcore changing. So I looked deep at my own beliefs and those stories and past experiences and emotions, and over time was able to turn things around just completely changed my money mindset. I found all of these old stories that were setting me up where I wanted something different, but it was never going to happen, Scott, until I really took a look at what was putting it all together. So once everything changed, I had to start sharing. It was like I had discovered this amazing thing that I was just bursting to share. So here I am now, helping others to do the same, to transform their life.
And I always tell people the best certification that any coach could ever get doesn't come from a piece of paper or an organization. And that's not to put any of those things down,
Sure.
but it's actually experiencing that firsthand. And you and I share that same story. We both had uh, financial rock bottoms. I had to
Yeah.
file for bankruptcy. I had made millions and lost millions 2 or 3 times. And it's humbling when you go through that experience. But what I can tell you is that what I now know, and this is where we share a lot of commonalities, is being resilient. And there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of people that are probably listening to this, and they may be in a really, really shitty financial situation. They
Uh-huh.
may have a lot of credit card debt. Maybe they're a payment or two behind on their mortgage. And, it seems like they're swimming in bills. And it's funny, Nancy and I were talking about Robin Sharma podcast episode where he was talking about, yeah, like the positive thinking is great, but that will only take you so far. It's
Yeah.
making that shift in your mind. And something that I love from the book, The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale talks about, what you think about most often is what you will become.
Uh-huh.
So if you're constantly reinforcing yourself with negative self-talk and broke thoughts and I don't have money and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, you are re-facilitating thoughts that are never going to change your financial situation. So I want to talk about the subconscious, and I want to talk about your journey in particular, and
Uh-huh.
the positive thinking and the happiness and all that stuff. Yeah, it's great. But it wasn't until you really broke into the subconscious where you had to reprogram yourself until things really started to change. So tell us a little bit about that journey where you had to make that decision to reprogram your thoughts
Uh-huh.
and retrain your subconscious to really move yourself forward.
Yeah. Yeah, you're totally right. So the positive thinking it's a great tool that you can add to your tool belt, but it can be a band-aid. And if it feels like effort, if it feels difficult, if it feels like you're forcing yourself, think positive, or if you're getting onto yourself, like, okay, stop doing that, think positive, that means that there's something else that has to go. There's something in your subconscious, because the positive thinking should become habitual. It should become a pattern. It should just become who you are, and there should not be any effort. So for me, it was all about looking at those, I mentioned it earlier a little bit, looking at what did I believe about money? We grow up with, we pile up all these beliefs. So let's say a listener is 30. Let's say they're 30 years old. They have 30 years of things that they've absorbed from movies, from TV shows, from social media, from adults in their lives. Even the things we absorb as kids will come back. And a lot of times people will say to me, of course I want more money. Of course I want to be wealthy. But when you ask them what is their opinion of rich people or of wealthy people or people with money, they can pull up several different beliefs. I had my own. Growing up, rich people were snobs. People with money, I knew someone that had a lot of money and he did corrupt things. So my brain put money and corruption together. So I myself had these things where, of course, I wanted to be wealthy and I wanted to have money. But if your subconscious has all of these beliefs that it's woven together for all of these years, it will protect you actually from having more money.
So let's talk about these habitual things, and
Mm-hmm.
more so because I have such hope for people, because I did not always have the money mindset that I had now.
Sure.
Nancy and I always call Mondays, money Mondays, because it just
Hmm.
seems like there's always these weird shifts on Mondays. And we listen to guided meditations on money affirmations and, abundance, and, reprogramming our subconscious while we sleep.
Yeah,
And these are all things that people can do. I mean, it's literally right on
sure.
YouTube. Jason Stevenson, it's a great YouTube channel. But there's a lot of people out there that feel it's too little too late. I have too many years of thinking this way. Yeah, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And a lot can happen in a year. A lot
Oh,
can
yeah.
happen. Practice always makes practice. The way that human beings are, and especially our minds, we can learn something new whenever we want to.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that journey that you went on. How long, and obviously you're still on it now, but when did you really start to notice a shift in your money mindset where you're like, wow, I'm I'm seeing a shift. I'm feeling a change. This is actually working.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say that exercise that I mentioned, where you actually take the time to take a piece of paper. So if the listeners aren't into journaling, fine, don't journal. Take a piece of paper and actually write down every negative money experience or negative money belief or thought or opinion that you've heard. Just brain dump it all out. The power in that is you might look at it and say, oh my gosh, I've listed 50 things. This is really bad. That might be overwhelming, but the power in that is that it's out of the closet, it's out of your head, it's on the paper, and you can see, okay, this is why I am where I am at, and I can move through these things and start to write a new story, start to create a new path. It's huge. Sometimes we resist that step of what is actually inside that's creating this, but that is the most powerful step.
And for my listeners out there, Elizabeth charges a lot of money that's well deserved for her coaching, and she's giving you guys free coaching right now. So
Yeah.
I know you're driving right now. A lot of you do listen to this while you drive, so do not write and drive, but go back and listen to this and write those negative things down. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is dirty.
Yes.
Money is evil. There's so many stories that we've been told about money that, the stories that we're told become our stories, and then we refacilitate it, and then you pass it to our kids. And you know I'm doing my very best. My son just turned 7, and really teaching him the meaning of money and wealth and abundance and prosperity and gratitude and thankfulness and appreciation. He's at that age where he absorbs everything, and it doesn't matter if you're 7 or 70. You can shift that mindset whenever you want. So let
Hmm.
me ask you this: with all the clients that you've worked with in corporate, but now outside of in your own coaching practice, what are the most common blocks that people have, and why is it so difficult for them to move past them?
You know, fear, fear is actually really common, and that might sound odd in relation to money, but a lot of times people fear what will happen if they have more money. Like what will they do with their life, or what will other people think? Will there be judgment, or will they change? Will their personality change? And I tell people all the time, money is an amplifier of who you already are. If you're kind and you're caring and you're generous now, more money will give you more opportunity to be kind and caring and generous. So if someone has that fear, like money's going to change them or money might change the people in their life, that's normally a great belief to work with, because that will block more money from coming in.
And you and I both know that every single person has the same opportunity every God-given day that we have to
Mm-hmm.
change our life. And literally, you just decide to make that change, the rest is history. And fear, and this is what I always remind my listeners and my clients,
Mm-hmm.
fear is a feeling.
Yep.
Feelings are choices. So if you're choosing to be fearful, you're choosing to keep yourself stuck. And there's
Mm-hmm.
an analogy that I use with fear. And I always, whenever I do these trainings, I always have them type in the chat box, repeat after me, fear is your friend. Because on the other side of fear is abundance, is
Mm-hmm.
change, is prosperity, is happiness, is enlightenment, all those things. Because fear is a wall that we put up ourselves. And I use the example of a downhill skier. You're in the Olympics, you're going down the hill, and you need to lean into the fear. But if you let fear get the best of you and you lean back in your boots, you're going to fall down.
Yep.
So as difficult as it may be at times, you need to lean in that fear to get on the other side of it. So the old stories that you used to have,
Mm-hmm.
what were you actually most, because when you start to peel back the layers, what
Yeah.
was actually Elizabeth most afraid of?
For me, it was money running out. A lot of people, depending on the stories they've heard or their own past experiences, maybe during their childhood, they will very irrationally, I would say, normally, like if you actually look at their situation, they're not close to money running out and they never have been, but the fear is very real. So in a situation like that, people oftentimes hoard money. They'll try to hoard money and they will hoard it to the point that they're never going to feel abundant. They will never be wealthy. They don't allow their money to grow. They don't allow any expansion of the money because there's fear, so they hoard it. For me, I never grew up with, like, money is just energy, and to a lot of people that's not something that they really hear growing up. Money is energy. We kind of grow up like, I don't want to take money or take too much money because maybe it's taking money from someone else, but it's like oxygen. It's, if I'm breathing, you're breathing, we're all breathing, there's plenty of oxygen for everyone. Money is the same way. It's energy. And probably a big game changer for me is energy flows in and flows out, Scott. So if you're wanting a lot of money to flow in, it's got to flow out. If you're not flowing it out, it doesn't flow in. And if it's not flowing in, you're not flowing out. It's like this energetic relationship of in and out. So people that fear that it's going to run out and they hoard it, they stop the flow.
It's interesting. I fully believe in the flow of money.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have clients that refer people to me, I always give them a referral bonus. And they're like, no, 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 that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. And I say back to them, I know it's not necessary, but it's
Yeah.
something that I do, and you must receive this because you're going to block the energy and the flow of this money. The exchange of money needs to be passed around. So if someone can't receive that, they have a money block themselves.
Yeah.
And if they're going to block that money, again, you're going to refacilitate that subconscious feeling and thoughts of that money, whether it's not having enough, or it's going to stop coming in, or I'm going to run out of it, or, when is it good? It's all of those things that you have to, and here's the big thing. You have to spend money to increase your income. You need to
Mm-hmm.
invest to make more. The way that I treat life is like a ongoing 401k. Meaning you have to make those daily, weekly, monthly deposits to have the compounded interest take place. And most people are afraid, like you said, they hoard that money and they stuff it under the mattresses and in the
Yeah.
nooks and crannies of their cupboards, when you got to reinvest it. You got to make those daily deposits. You have to grow your life, your thoughts, and everything that comes with that, just like you would a 401k.
Mm-hmm.
So you've worked with a lot of people, and nothing happens overnight. This
Right.
is this is not the lottery. You know, you don't go, Elizabeth, fix me, and then the next day you open your mail and there's a check for 10,000. It's just not how that works. So share a little bit of a success story of some of the clients that you've worked with, more about the before and after, where that person was, when they came to you and wanted your help, about that they had these money and mindset blocks, and after you kind of help them peel back the layers and take down some of those cobwebs, how they ended up on the other side.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will give you an example of, let's see, a recent one that comes to mind is we were talking about fear. And this client in particular was afraid to move to a new city for an exciting opportunity because the cost of living was higher in the new city. There was a lot of comfort in the current location, and the living expenses seemed really reasonable. Things were going great. So client said no thank you to two opportunities that actually were great, that there was a lot of potential for growth, and they were new, lots of expansion. We worked through the fear of what would it look like to move, and was it a perceived fear? Was it actually, because sometimes with fear, you do dismiss it and you work through it and you say that's just perceived, or I don't care about that fear, I want to do it anyway. And sometimes you do say, okay, that fear is enough for me right now that I'm going to make a certain decision, right? But at least if you're consciously looking at it, you can decide instead of just, unconsciously just rejecting it. So for her, we looked at the fears and we looked at the potential gain and the growth, the expansion that was available. A couple months later, another opportunity came and she chose to take it. She took the higher cost of living state. She took on the challenge and the adventure, and everything initially worked out great. There was still money flowing. The level of abundance didn't dip at all. The lifestyle didn't change. But about 30 days later, after that move, I got a message and some new opportunity to be a team, like it was a newly created role, a team that hadn't been there before, and they needed someone to manage a large team. It was included a big salary bump, and the person had to be there in that city. And she had always wanted to be a leader and never had the opportunity. So if she hadn't made taken that chance and broke through that fear, then she wouldn't have been in the right city to take the role and gotten a large salary bump. So in the end, she had the leadership role. She had basically the dream job that wasn't even there a few months prior. And her level of abundance increased, even with the cost of living increase.
Amazing. And you said, you used a word that a lot of people end up using, and the word is comfort. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's comfortable, right? I don't want to get uncomfortable, because uncomfortable is icky and it's unknown. So, two questions. Number one, why is it so important to get uncomfortable in life? Number one. Number two, a lot of my listeners are growing side businesses.
Yeah.
They are working for someone else. Some of them have their own businesses, and then they obviously do network marketing or some sort of coaching practice on the side. I want to dive into the employee mentality, because
Mm-hmm.
you and I both know, when we started our coaching practices, it's a whole different animal when you're on your own. Whether
Yeah.
I was running a business, I had a business, but you still work for someone, so it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of mindset shifts that need to be made when you go from an employee mindset where you used
Yeah.
to be managed to where you then have to manage yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I first want you to talk about comfort and how important it is to get uncomfortable. But number two, what are some of the subconscious or mindset shifts that someone that's been employed for 20 years, they're just used to being managed and now they're on their
Mhm.
own on the side growing a business. What's an exercise or two that they can do to kind of refacilitate, the subconscious belief that they can manage themselves, they don't need to report to someone, they can do this on their own?
Sure. That's a great question. I love it. So, for the comfort question, I would say most people listening, most of your listeners are wanting to take their life to the next level. I mean, that's the people that I work with. It's taking your life to the next level. And I can tell you, and I know you would 100% agree with me, you're not going anywhere if you stay right where you're at, right? And right where you're at is your comfort zone. There's actually nothing wrong with it. It's great for a high percentage of people. They're happy, they love it. But for the people that are listening that want to take their life to the next level, they feel like there's more. They have that nagging feeling. They have big dreams, they have big goals. Everything that you want is on the other side of that comfort zone. In the comfort zone, it is safe. It's kind of like, well, if I get out, what if it's not as good, right? What if I'm not happy if I leave this little space that I'm in? But the biggest game changer for me is realizing the current space that you're in that feels good and feels comfortable. You created that, you wrote that story. So you're writing the next one. And every time you can write a better story. You're not going to write a worse story for yourself. You're not going to go from a great story to now I'm writing a bad one. No, you're growing, you're learning, you're expanding. So the stories get better and better and better. Don't lose that power. Like, you created the current one you're in. Don't be afraid. What about that next one? Like, it's not going to be as good. No, it's going to be just as good, and it's going to be better because you keep growing. You're listening to this podcast, which means you're interested in your development. You're moving forward. Everything that you want and that you're dreaming about is on the other side of your comfort zone. The second question about mindset shifts, that's so powerful, Scott, because again, it's just like the money beliefs that I talked about that are absorbed. They're in your subconscious. So 90% of your brain is operating underneath. It's that subconscious part that you don't think about every day. It's the habits, it's the patterns, it's those neural pathways that have been created over time. And you can't really access them all the time because the 10% is your day to day, and you have to focus on that so you can drive and walk and talk and just live your life. So the 90% below the surface, that's where all the power is. That's where all the life change is. That's where the profound things are. The things that are really going to make the difference are there below the surface. What it takes is slowing down and looking at what is there. Whenever someone says, I don't know about leaving corporate America, or I don't know about leaving this comfortable job that I've had, or I don't want to manage myself. I don't want to be responsible for myself. I like having someone else responsible. There's always fear, I would say, in the subconscious, or beliefs in the subconscious. If the person slows down, Scott, and looks at them, they can be handled typically one by one. It's like, well, maybe your uncle told you, always make sure you have a job because you need this benefit, or you want that 401k match, or there's so many things that will come up they're lingering there in the subconscious, and it's just getting them out of the closet, taking a look at them, maybe calling bullshit on some of them, maybe reframing some, just shifting your perspective, and maybe giving your brain examples like, hey, look at Scott, he probably had some of those same fears and now he's killing it. There's so many examples, and that helps the subconscious. When the subconscious is like unsure and it's already had certain stories over the years, give it new stories, find new examples of people that have done something different, and they've kind of flipped the script on those beliefs that are keeping the person tied to something that they're ready to move on from.
Absolutely amazing. And I know the listeners, again, you're getting thousands of dollars worth of coaching for free right now. So take some notes on this. So a couple questions before we wrap up. So you've gone through your own shifts over the last couple years. So my first question is, what's the biggest lesson that you've actually learned about yourself on this journey?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Honestly, I talk about it a lot, and I've said it a few times tonight, but for listeners, you're underestimating your own power. And that's what I've learned about myself over and over and over again. I think that I understand it. I think that I can kind of comprehend how powerful I am, like how powerful my thoughts are, how powerful of a storyteller I am. And every time I'm blown away again whenever I realize no matter what situation we are in, no matter how many times something has happened over and over and over, the pattern's repeated, right? That person has done that 100 times. I've done that 100 times. You know, it keeps happening, or no matter how down and out you feel, you have the power to write a new story. And that's probably the biggest thing for me that I've learned about myself over the last few years. In any moment, I can write a new story.
Love that. And I'm going to go back to something that you said, that people are afraid to move. And there's a great quote that states, "You're not a tree, just move." And it's the truth. All you have to do is just shift just a little bit. And it doesn't have to be a mile, it doesn't have to be a foot. It could be a millimeter forward, and you're going to change your life. So before I get to my last question, how can people find you on social media, and where can they connect with you via online to learn more about you and your services and how you can help them?
Yes, great question. I am on Instagram, and that is NXTLVL SHIFT, and put the F in there, yeah. And then on LinkedIn, you can find me. And then Scott gave you my website earlier, nxtlvlshift.xyz.
Final question. And there is absolutely no wrong answer, but I love ending my episodes with this question. So Elizabeth, taking us into 2020, what does success mean to you?
That is a good one. I really like that. For me, it's living an abundant life. And yes, we've talked a lot about money on this chat, but an abundant life for me, so success is an abundance of happiness, fulfillment, love, joy, peace, all of those things, Scott, equal an abundant life. So for me, success is just living a turned on, turned up, tuned in, abundant life.
I love it. I love it. Elizabeth, thank you so, so much for being here today. I know a lot of my listeners, including myself, went through those money blocks, and there is a science to everything. And a lot of it lies between the 6 inches between our ears. And I always tell people those 6 inches are either going to hurt you or they're going to help you. And it's really your choice in the end. So thank you so, so much again for being here today and really ending this year the right way, setting people up for massive monetary success and happiness and love and abundance and joy in 2020 and beyond. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. So guys, thank you again so much for being here today. Have a happy, blessed, healthy, and safe new year. And I will see you next year. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you again so much for checking out this week's episode. And if you can, head over to iTunes, search for Network Marketing Made Simple, leave me a 5-star rating, basic review. I would be grateful for all of the support you guys can give me. And again, if you'd be interested in learning more how to utilize LinkedIn to grow your business, your brand, and your bank account, head over to my website, www.scottaaron.net. Fill out the form for your free 15-minute discovery call so I can learn more about you, your business, and how we can work together. And again, thank you guys so much. Grateful for you all, and I'll see you next time.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.